Hey everyone. Well, we got extra parts back in the garage. When we built this, the idea was, hey, look at all those parts. Let's throw it together and see what happens. And what happened is something that turned out to be a lot more fun than we were expecting. And now we've decided that this truck will be fun to do drag and drive events and things like that with. So now we are going to go forward with the purpose of building it for that reason. Because of that, we're gonna have to redo a few things that we've already done. Some of them I planned on getting to eventually. You know, you put it together and you're like, oh, this will work for now, I'll do that later. Well, later came sooner than later usually does. So what we have right now is we have a couple of problems. The biggest problem is I noticed when I was timing this at the track, the timing jumps around quite a bit. And when I built this engine, again, it was parts I had laying on the shelf. It was a double roller timing set, but it wasn't a good one. And I'm thinking that maybe it just isn't holding the cam. I don't know what's wrong. I'm going to pull the front of the motor apart and figure out why the timing is jumping all over the place. While I'm there, I'm gonna go ahead and degree the cam, and I'm gonna actually make 100% sure that the timing mark on the balancer is in the right place, because I kind of eyeballed it when I put it together, but I didn't fully check it with the piston stop and a degree wheel and everything like you're supposed to. And for that, we're also gonna pull the motor because the front pump seal is leaking. It's not leaking real bad. If I didn't need to pull the motor, or wouldn't it make things easier to pull the motor to do other things, I probably wouldn't even mess with it. But since I'm there, I'm gonna go ahead and put a front pump seal in the transmission. When I put this together, I had a set of big block motor mounts and I put them in there and they kind of fit. If you look in here, right down here, you can see I made a spacer. By spacer, I mean a piece of 1/2-inch plate that made the engine sit level and not on the cross member. So I'm gonna fix that. And the way I'm gonna fix that is I'm gonna build a set of actual motor mounts that they'll be made to make this engine sit where it needs to in here. And then once we get that done, we can put the motor back in, but also on our list for the next couple weeks is to put this thing on a diet. We took it to the scales today and I couldn't believe what it weighed. I mean, it really isn't as bad as I thought it was. It weighed 3860. That was on a scale at a gravel pit that is a certified scale, so I mean, it's gotta be pretty close. And then just setting the front tires off the scale, the rear end looks like it's carrying about 1,400 pounds of that, so it's heavy in the nose. So we're gonna remove the rear bumper. That doesn't make a lot of sense for what I just said, but I don't need it. It's really heavy, and I'm planning on relocating the battery to the back, and that should offset some of that. And then I'm also gonna try to lighten up the nose quite a bit. I'm gonna remove the entire HVAC system out of the inside of the car, because although it would be nice to have, you know, heat and cooling if we're doing drag and drive events, it's just, I don't think it's really gonna be necessary. The overwhelming point of a drag and drive car is a car that you can drive on the street but drag race as well. I don't think HVAC is going to be a factor in that. I may change my mind. I'm not throwing anything away. I'm going to keep it all. And then we're also going to remove the inner fenders in the front just to help with airflow through the engine bay and remove a little more weight, plus clean things up, make a little more room for different things inside the engine compartment. We're gonna remove the entire interior because the bench seat is got to go. One, eventually this truck is gonna go fast enough that you're not gonna be able to use that seat anyway. You're gonna have something that you can put a 5-point harness on, and it's gonna need a roll cage. And so we're just gonna start there, remove the nasty rubber floor pad that's in there because it's nasty and heavy. This engine doesn't fit great in this truck, if you haven't noticed. I mean, it fits good in there, except in order to take the valve covers off to do any kind of maintenance to the engine, you have to remove the brake booster. The whole thing has to come out. So I'm gonna go ahead and just delete the brake booster altogether. It doesn't really have power brakes anyway because it doesn't make enough vacuum, except, you know, you get like one and then the vacuum's gone and then the power is gone. So then you're on manual brakes anyway. And it stops okay with manual brakes. I might see if I can change the pedal ratio to make that a little better, or maybe change the master cylinder at some point, but for right now I'm just gonna remove the booster and go that way. Then we are going to get this truck sitting flat. And the way I'm gonna do that is I'm gonna remove one extra leaf and then a overload spring in the back on the leaf springs. And I think if I remove those, that's about 3/4 of an inch plus whatever that extra leaf is holding it up. I think that's gonna get us pretty close to level. And that should help with weight transfer, as well as it won't look like a stink bug anymore. The wiring harness in this truck is atrocious. It's been through 6 different iterations, and a big part of it was me, but it was always, I'll fix it later. well, it's later. I'm gonna thin out everything that I don't need in the wiring harness. I don't need a lot of the HVAC, and I don't need any of the emission stuff this truck was originally equipped with, because it doesn't have it anymore, and all the wiring is still there, so there's no point to have all that wiring there. And then I'm gonna move the electronics for the engine inside the cab so that they're not out here in the hot engine compartment. After we get done with that is put some type of seat in it. I have an old Circle Track seat with the little hip hug or rib cage holders, and I think I'm just going to use that. It's pretty comfortable. It may not be permanent, but it'll be what I put in there for now. And after we get done with all that, we're going racing again and see how fast it is then.